Thank you to our panelists here today. Obviously, agriculture is the #1 industry in South Dakota, incredibly important to our state, and so the Farm Bill is always an important conversation, and I hope as we move forward we can enact policy that will be good for the prosperity of agriculture and our rural economy in this country. And I'd like to, just if I might, ask a couple of questions with regard to Title I of the Farm Bill, the commodity title, and what thoughts or suggestions you all might have. And I assume maybe you've covered this already, but if you could at least reiterate your thoughts about what we do with ARC and PLC. We know crop insurance is the cornerstone in terms of the farm safety net, but those programs complement that, and you know, a lot's changed since we did the last Farm Bill in 2018 with respect to reference prices. And so could you give us perhaps your thoughts about what we might do to shore up that aspect of our farm policy?
You want to go first?
No, I appreciate the question because in terms of the safety net and ARC and PLC in particular, we think that they are basically strong provisions providing support that we feel needs to be updated to reflect kind of additional cost out there. So raising reference prices is really critical in that. But I would also highlight that in spite of the land grant economist models of what farmers potentially should choose between ARC and PLC, for many producers, it's still a little bit of a guessing game out there about what is that year going to look like, which program is going to provide the better support for my operation. And while the yearly kind of election is important, Farmers Union would like the committee to explore a dual enrollment of ARC and PLC as one of the additional options that would be part of the suite.
So Mr. LaRue has represented it very well, and I would just reiterate the biggest change we've seen is in the cost of production, the cost of us producing those products. So to make sure that safety net is accurate, it needs to be updated as to what the real cost of production is.
Right. But you continue to support annual election.
Yes, sir.
PLC and ARC, but Farmers Union is dual, basically, as opposed to, okay, all right. Well, that was a provision that we had included, that I worked to get included in the 2018 Farm Bill, and it's available, of course, in 22 and 23 as well. But Mr. LaRue, in your testimony, you discussed the Soil Health and Income Protection Program, which I authored for the 2018 Farm Bill. SHIP has provided producers in the prairie pothole states with a short-term option to conserve their least productive land, which, unlike the CRP program, requires a commitment of only 3 to 5 years. So could you maybe describe how a SHIP reauthorization and expansion could help producers enhance their operations?
Absolutely. And first of all, we would just thank you for the leadership and the vision in this provision. It's enabled producers to have a great deal of flexibility in that prairie pothole region for land that is marginal and should not be in production. And so providing the shorter term contracts in exchange for partial rental payment there has really enabled producers to have that flexibility of production in a given year or series of years. And so we would certainly support authorization of that and possibly looking at expanding that model to allow that same sort of flexibility of taking marginal land out of production on a shorter term basis to larger parts of the country.
Mr. Duval, you, I think, it would acknowledge, and I think most would, as I said earlier, that crop insurance is a critically important tool to mitigate risks associated with production agriculture. And maybe you could just briefly describe the Farm Bureau's ideas to improve that program in the next Farm Bill.
Crop insurance?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, we like we said earlier, we think it needs to make sure we have the funding and support for it. We need to broaden it and improve it. And broaden it, I mean by making sure that all commodities have access to affordable crop insurance. But it has to be funded at a level that it doesn't dilute it down to where it's not an effective risk management too.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your indulgence. My time's expired, but I would like to perhaps get you both on the record, if I can, with regard to some of the foreign policy. So if we could, if I could get you, I've got a couple questions for the record that I'll submit. Thank you, Madam Chair.